at this point.
Thank you. That was a very great introduction and overview of what we're going to be covering. It looks like we don't have any specific questions right now. I'm going to go ahead and launch our second poll, which should just take a minute. This is going to help us know your familiarity with a fundraising event, if you've done this online before or not. So please submit your answer, and then we'll go ahead and get back into it. Suzanne's about to go into the real details of how to host a successful walkathon. So the next 35 minutes are going to be extremely informative. So it looks like we don't quite have everybody who has voted, but I'm going to go ahead and close this and share the results quick. Suzanne, it looks like 50% of the attendees, this is their first time event. The other 50% have established an event before, but this is the first time they're considering doing it online. It's always been done offline before. So okay, great. It's back over to you, Suzanne.
All right, great. Thanks so much, Carrie. So it sounds like we've got some newbies, either new to doing a walkathon or new to doing it online. I was right there with you a year ago. I had not done this before. I knew it had to be able to be done, and I figured it out. So you can do it too, and I'm trying to give you the proper tools to be able to get going in the right direction. So what I'm going to do now is really delve into planning your online fundraiser. So the steps you need to take to get it up and running, assuming, of course, that you've decided to go in that direction by the time you've done all of the analysis. We'll dig into this right now. What I want to mention is it's important to plan this out. Think about your parents. Think about your participants, the people who will be on your website, doing registration, getting donations, going back for information. Make sure you think about them and how it will benefit them best to have your online fundraiser set up on the web. Go ahead and map it out. Just take a piece of paper and draw it out. Draw about all of the information areas that you need to have for parents. And then also, it's handy to draw up any kind of questions you think you might get from your participants as you go along. Be well planned for this. So I'm going to go into what specifically you want to plan for in your website. These are some key areas that you really need to have when you're doing your website for your walkathon. First of all, obviously everyone has a home page, but I'm thinking specifically about what kind of content you want to have on your home page. Typically it's a welcome, it's a message about the event, get everybody excited. And then also, in the case of Do Jiggy, they do have a great template that offers a thermometer, like I mentioned before, that shows how your fundraiser is going. How is your school doing versus their goal? You need to figure out where you're going to set your goal for your fundraiser and make that public through your website so everyone is shooting for the same goal. So the home page is a way to capture everyone's interest and keep them coming back to see how your school is doing on the whole. I will also mention you want to add content as the campaign moves along. You want to make sure you have fresh and new information for your parents, for your participants, all the time, daily, weekly. Some of that's done through the online fundraising tool, and some of it you'll want to do on your own. So the types of things that are done through the online fundraising tool are actually looking at these thermometers. I'll show you in the next area another great one which shows competition. Some things you can do is you can have a news area of your website, and if you do that you can pop up tips and tricks and things like that. So think about bringing people back to your site, and in all of your information you send out to your parents, I suggest you just say keep going back to the website, see how you're doing. So again, these basic components of the website are very important. Obviously a registration page, you want users to be able to click on that registration page, fill out a simple online form, and be registered. Consider in registration too that they can register as individuals or as groups. You can think about setting them up as you can set up a list of groups. In the school's case, oftentimes it's great to set it up by teacher name, or you can set it up by grade level. But certainly mark out those groups before you start this process, because unless you decide you want to, it's really not a good idea to have students making their own groups. So certainly set that up for registration. All of these are important elements of any walkathon website. Certainly a share widget. And by share widget I mean it's those little boxes you see for Facebook, MySpace, all of those social networking sites. You want to make sure that if the share widget is not already integrated into the template of the software site, like Dojiggy has. If it's not integrated, you better make sure you put one in there. And there are ways to do that, but better if it's already integrated. That will allow parents to click on the link and post the support needed for their kids' walkathon right to their Facebook page. So additional elements that you would want to consider for your walkathon website. One of my favorites, and I will show you a picture of this in a moment, is a leaderboard. I call it the leaderboard. It's really a competition page. I'll wait to describe detail of that till I get there. The other thing is the sponsorships that I mentioned earlier. You want to be able to show, if you do in fact have sponsors, you want to show your school community who is out there supporting your walkathon and who's out there supporting the t-shirts or providing food for the event. It's really important to give those sponsors some play on your website. Also, food and entertainment, I like to include that because many of these walkathons are a weekend event where you have a lot more going on than just the walking, and it's a way to get people excited about what's coming their way at the event, why to come, bring the whole family out. Maybe you've just added the local burger joint who's going to come and cater the event on site. That's a cool thing for people to know. So think about that. And the other thing also is that some of these walkathons these days are also adding a component for a silent auction or a live auction or a raffle. And you can either just advertise that on your website, or you can opt to use a software tool to actually manage that auction or that raffle. Dojiggy, incidentally, does have a module where they manage, or you would manage with their tool, the auction donations, registering bidders, and all kinds of things associated with online, silent, or live auctions. I certainly won't go into that today, but just so you know, there is software out there that can really help you for that. In this case, either you would link to an online auction from the walkathon site, or you could just really advertise the items that will be available for auction at the event. Certainly you want to have a link for volunteering, because we all need more volunteers. News, product sales, like I mentioned, if you have something special like a school t-shirt that you want to sell, you can do it there potentially. And then one other thing that is not actually a page that you would have on the website, but I think is very important, is analytics. If you have not experienced analytics for yourself, it's really cool. I don't love numbers. I don't dream about numbers at night. But when I go and I check out my Google Analytics for any of the walkathon websites or online fundraising sites that I have done, I get really excited. So an example of analytics is Google Analytics, which is free. It is supported by Dojiggy, and they have it built into their tool. You just go and you create your own analytics reporting scheme on Google Analytics, and you plug it into your website. What this does is it enables you to see where your traffic is coming from to your website, and even where it's going to around your website. I'll give you an example of this that I think is really cool. When we did the walkathon at Guadalupe, I put Google Analytics in there so I could track the traffic to the website. I had no idea where the traffic would be coming from. I assumed most of it would come from our own website, the school website, because we had a link to the walkathon website from the school website. I was wrong. When I looked at the real data, I looked at the analytics. Our #1 source of referral to the Guadalupe Walkathon website was Facebook. And that surprised me and also got me excited at the same time, because what that meant was parents were using that Facebook widget to post the status and say, support my kid in the walkathon, and they were getting people to click on that, go directly to our website and make pledges. So that is an awesome example of how analytics can really show you what's really happening versus what you thought might be happening. So I want to jump into a timeline here. Everything's going to be a little bit different. In a perfect world, we would really have 10 weeks to get ready for a walkathon. If you're a school that does their walkathon in the fall, you probably know that not a lot gets done in the summer. And that would really cut into your planning timeline. Maybe you really are quite organized and you can really spend this kind of time. But this is a perfect world. This is what I really suggest, is really think about it. Don't jump into anything too fast. It takes time to develop any fundraiser, online fundraisers as well. So looking at this timeline, really, I would suggest 10 weeks out from the event itself, really kick off the website development. By that time, you should have gone through the research phase and decided what you want to do, which software provider you want to go with, the payment processors, and then really have done that financial analysis and gotten to the point where you're ready to go. And 10 weeks out is when you need to do your final setup of the website. So you sign up for the website or the software to do it, sign up for your payment processors, and really start digging in and getting the work done to build the site. And then I say 6 weeks out, give yourself 2 weeks, no less than 1 week. Give yourself a full week to 2 weeks to have your internal staff test your site to make sure everything's working. There are a lot of variables and a lot of things that can happen on the website, and you want multiple eyes looking at it to make sure that there aren't any big errors or issues with the site. So have your internal staff, your walkathon committee, maybe the board of your parent organization, the principal, whomever test it. Test it not only to register for the event, but also to make pledges. And then that way you make sure everything's working correctly once you've got the payment processing hooked into the tool. Then I would suggest giving a good 4 weeks between the time you launch your website and the time the walkathon event happens to get people registered, especially if it's the first time, because it takes a little time for people to catch on to what they need to do. Give them 4 weeks and do an official launch and get it going. And then promote like mad. Talk to everybody. When you're sitting there at pickup time or drop-off time, ask people if they have registered their kid for the walkathon yet. Get them going. Show them how easy it is. Even have the school media lab open to be able to go in and do registration online there. Anything you want, but just think about promote, promote, promote. And then, of course, it's time for your walkathon event. Don't be afraid if a week before your walkathon you don't have all of the pledges you expect to have. I've noticed that certainly 1 week before, up to 2 weeks before, that's when most of the pledges come in for a walkathon. And even within a week to 2 weeks after the walkathon, that's when pledges tend to come in. Leave your pledge tool open so that people can continue to get pledges after the event itself. So you make sure to grab as much donation as you can to further your school's cause. And then finally, by about 4 weeks after the event, you're ready to close the payment processing. Certainly if you've allowed people to do flat pledges and per lap or per mile pledges, you want to make sure to go back in or have the parents go back in at that point and enter the actual laps or miles their child has walked. And then you can go in and easily through the software tool request the final payment with credit card or with a check. So you want to reconcile most of that by about 4 weeks after the event. At that point, you can do all the prizes and the incentives for the kids at the assembly or however you do it. So